Cam, you're an ex-professional. Welcome to the show.
Thanks,
Welcome.
Jared. Thanks for having me.
No, I go by LT. You can't call me
LT.
You can't call me my real name.
All right, my bad.
Actually,
my
I
bad.
can't. Your name's not Cam. What are you now?
You gonna call me Americam
Yeah, I'll call you Americam. That's very natural.
for the purposes of this
I'm
podcast.
not calling you Americam.
Yeah, I'll update my contact in your phone. I still have you in there as Jared, so I'm gonna have to update that.
Oh, I guess I need to turn my phone off. Because this is a serious. Oh, we're started, by the way. This
All
is
right.
already. We're live.
Okay, good.
In
I'm
front
glad
of,
we're
like,
live. Yeah.
This is a live stream too.
Nice.
So like 20 people.
We're live on what though? There's a lot of things.
I just
live
got
on these days.
I got a notification saying you suck. Okay. This is a podcast. This is the first time I've ever done a podcast with another human being. Usually I'm alone in my room, and I actually haven't done this in 2 years. So, this is like the first time you do anything in life. It's extremely awkward. So I'm gonna pull out my phone and just pretend I'm doing something there. No, welcome to the show, ex-professional, semi-professional. What are you considered now?
I mean, pro is it's a heavy word to throw around these days.
Well, I'm
especially
using
in
it for the
world of
thumbnail.
soccer.
So I'm gonna
Yeah.
call you a pro.
For the purpose of the thumbnail, absolutely, you can throw that around. I'm not actively playing in the Prem. Never played in the Prem. I'll just put that out
I've
there.
never been in the. I've never been to
been
England.
I've never even been to England. I don't even have an active passport right now, so I couldn't even get there.
No
Even if I was playing this weekend, I wouldn't be able to get to the game.
Yeah. Oh God, this is good. Guys, if you didn't know, Cam is way better at soccer/football than I am. And probably hold on. Let me just get into this. We've been brainstorming this podcast probably a year. How long would you say we've been doing this?
Yeah, well, actively talking about it,
Yeah.
not that much. Maybe a little bit here and there, but for a while we've been excited about doing something like this.
I remember a distinct moment. I finally found the thing I was looking for. A distinct moment when we were outside of a Chick-fil-A and a local gym, and we were like really excited about this. It was dark outside and cold, so I think that was like 10 months ago. But
It had
we're
to have
here.
been-
Yeah.
yeah, outside of Crunch.
Yeah. We're here though.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, we're here. We made it. Let's do it.
we're gonna see how long this becomes a thing. Hopefully you guys enjoy these videos, and you can give us topics. We're also gonna do some other stuff revolving around activities and ex-professional slash current professional slash current Omega Ball champion. We'll get into that in a bit. Versus guy who stares at computer for 9 hours. Shooting drills, those kinds of videos. I think those will be good.
Ooh, yeah. I'm excited to do some shooting. We got to get out there and do that.
Yeah. So we had some topics, and I think these are good. I mean, we could talk about the World Cup because that's the thing everyone wants to talk about. We could talk about Omega Ball. Is soccer the best sport? Personally, for me, I think we should start with your background because that's what a lot of people are interested in. How did you become the level that you were? You played in college, you played all throughout your entire life. We'll get into that. So what got you into soccer? What got you into football? And let's go from there.
That's a great question. So for me, this dates back, and I actually like to say that I started playing soccer before I was born. And usually people stare at me weird when I say that, but my mom was actually pregnant with me at the time, and she was still actively playing soccer. She played up to the semi-pro ranks. She played in college. So when she was pregnant with me, I was on the soccer field running around, getting my touches in.
That's kind of nuts. Was she big? Not like that. I don't comment on women's weight, but she's
She's a really lean
yeah.
human being to begin with, but she's very athletic. So I would imagine, when it came time where, I could pop out in any second, she dialed back how
she just gave birth.
she
on
stopped
the field.
two-footing people when,
Yeah.
when I was getting close, third trimester, all that good stuff. But
She did the celebration where people score and then they put the ball under their stomach.
she didn't even have to do that.
Yeah, but then it was like it made it even bigger. So everyone was like, "What just happened?"
Twins.
So, what position did you play as a youngster all throughout, and then in the pro
As
ranks?
a youngster, you go wherever the ball goes.
Yeah.
Right. It's just all a horde of kids, and everyone's trying to kick. And if you're fast, you're good, and if you're not fast, then you have potential. Maybe you just got to work and practice, all that good stuff. But yeah, I played center mid to around the time where actually formation started to be a thing, and position started to be a thing. I played center mid, and I actually stuck with center mid all along. Throughout my entire career, yeah.
If you had to model yourself after a professional, who would it be? Is there a certain midfielder? Are you going to say Luka Modric?
I don't know if you ever heard of him. He's a little bit more of an obscure player, but Kevin De Bruyne.
Have you ever heard of Ronaldo?
But yeah, Kevin De Bruyne actually plays a lot like me. I think I'm probably a little bit more physical.
Yeah.
But very versatile.
Yeah.
And can pretty much play box to box, can get assists, can get goals.
Have you ever seen the meme where Kevin De Bruyne's face gets really red and it shows like the redness shows how much energy he has left? So he's like a walking stamina bar. Have you ever seen that?
I have not. No.
It's pretty good. Maybe
it does sound good.
We'll have so I used to have a gnome. Actually, the gnome broke. I don't think I ever told anyone that I named him Ernesto, but then his other name was Lucifer. I don't know why. Yeah, your face. You're just like Ernesto Lucifer. Where did that jump
Those
from?
are both good names.
So I would always say we'll have him throw something in post, post production to. So we'll put the meme up so you guys can enjoy.
I want to see
exactly
that too.
what that means. All right, so Kevin De Bruyne, and so then in high school, were you the best on your team?
Well, I mean, you're in high school for 4 years. So my freshman year, I actually was a hybrid JV and varsity player. So we had a very competitive high school program. We were always in the running for state championship. This was back when everyone could play high school soccer before the academies started splitting off and become really exclusive.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So we had a good program. Obviously Raleigh, that whole area there's a lot of young talent coming up. There's a lot of big ACC schools in the area. So it's a big area for soccer in general. But yeah, at my high school, I was, a solid contributor. I was a starter, became a starter sophomore year, and played a lot of significant minutes.
Yeah.
And we actually won the state championship that year. And then junior and senior year, I was one of probably I would say our two best players. We had a really good defender as well who went on to play at Wake Forest. But
that's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. But
I didn't know that. I didn't realize you guys won the state championship sophomore year.
We did.
Huh. Yeah. So then talk to me about the recruiting process. Like you went to varsity sophomore year.
Mm-hmm.
Did you start getting letters immediately? Did people just see you play and ball out, or what was that like?
Yeah, so it's very much, I did receive some letters, and I would say it wasn't primarily through high school. I don't think there was a lot of recruiting in high school soccer.
Mm-hmm.
It was more so through the club soccer ranks. When you go to showcase tournaments, that's where the college coaches are coming out and they're keeping track of who players are. And also there was this thing called ODP, Olympic Development Program. And we represented North Carolina, the team that I was on. And then every year they would select a region team to represent Region 3. And then there would be a national pool of players as well.
Oh, that's cool.
So at one point I did go from the North Carolina team up to the regional team. And that was a good recruiting opportunity. I remember I got a letter from the UCLA coach, a handwritten letter after that.
Really?
Tournament. Yeah, I was on the all-tournament
team. That must make you feel special.
It was cool. I think I just didn't even understand.
Yeah.
At that point, I wasn't even shopping for colleges yet because it's become so much more of a quote unquote a business nowadays where you're so forward thinking.
Mm-hmm.
At that time, I knew I wanted to play in college, but I had not even spent much time researching the process of how you reach out to coaches or start the recruiting process.
All right. So what, just a spoiler alert, you played in college. What what was that? Were you a walk-on? Did you get a scholarship?
I was a walk-on
Yeah.
at NC State University. I did have scholarship opportunities. I had a scholarship to play at Stetson University, which is a small private school down in Florida. And I turned that down to go take on some student loans. Great decision.
What made you, was it because you wanted to stay close?
It actually had nothing to do with geography. It had everything to do with I wanted to be a small fish in a big pond and rise to the challenge because I thought that would make me a
nice.
better player.
Yeah.
As opposed to going, no offense to Stetson, but it's not the ACC. And
Is that D1?
it is D1.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's D1. And I've actually thought about this looking back on it. I don't regret what I did,
Mm-hmm.
but if you have somebody willing to write a check for you to come play for
Yeah.
them, especially with transferring being what it is, there's nothing wrong with going to a school where you can have an easier path to be an immediate starter, get that game experience under your belt,
Mm-hmm.
and keep developing training off the field. And who knows? I mean, you could transfer into a school as more of a battle tested,
Yeah.
sophomore or junior and be in a great position.
I think that's interesting now because you see a lot of people the transfer portal is completely different. Like you don't have to sit out now.
Yep.
Whereas compared to when you were in school, you would have to sit out for a whole year, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
if you
now
if
people
you
just
stayed in
move.
conference, you would lose a year of eligibility. If
Yeah.
you transferred out of your conference, you could do one. The
Okay.
NCAA gave you one transfer out of conference.
Do you ever look at the, how you can make money now off your name? Do you ever look at that and just think, I could have just become Steel Squad Incorporated and just, been dishing out
the
gear
landscape?
before?
The landscape is really exciting nowadays.
Yeah.
I do get excited for young players coming out of high school into the college ranks, regardless of what sport you're
Mhm.
involved in. There's so many opportunities for you to build your brand, and I think that's what life is about
Yeah.
too. At a certain degree, is you should always know what your brand is, who you want to be. So you have a chance to monetize that. That's pretty cool.
I always thought that was really nuts how you couldn't monetize anything. You couldn't monetize just your name. It was like the college owned everything about you, and it just made no sense to me.
Yeah. It is really intense. And especially too, one thing I remember is people being so strict about what you can and cannot wear.
Yeah.
Because schools, their lifeblood was the sponsorship money,
Yeah.
right? And if they're a Nike school, if they're an Adidas school, it's like joining a gang.
Yeah,
you know?
They have to blur out if you don't wear the right thing in like a promo video, right?
Yeah.
They'll like blur out the Nike symbol if you're Adidas.
Yeah. I mean, obviously the cleats you wear is a huge thing that gets monitored.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to. You could probably get away with it once or twice in training,
Really?
but if you were warming up for a game, at a game, anything that was going to get exposure or be aired,
Yeah.
there's no way.
No shot.
Yeah, no way.
Wow.
I know one guy who spray painted his cleats all black because
Yeah.
he didn't want to wear Adidas, but had to cover up the logos and stuff.
See, like being the professional soccer player I am, I only wear Adidas because I have such wide feet that I couldn't fit into a Nike.
Yeah, Nikes are so thin.
So I don't even know what would happen in that situation. I guess you would just do what that guy did and just
you just
spray paint it.
transfer.
Yeah, you just go from Stetson to what's the biggest, like Wake, UNC.
Wake's really big. UNC's
Yeah.
big. I mean, there's so many big ones. Clemson, Virginia.
Okay, so you're at State. Who is the best? I actually know the answer to this, and I've player reviewed him multiple times. I just want everyone to know this. Who is the best player you ever played against? Do a name drop right now because I know who it is.
Jack Harrison.
Yes.
Jack
I did
Harrison.
review him. I actually reviewed him after you told me that last year, and then I was like, I think I mentioned it in the video because he had scored a hat trick.
Guy's a baller.
He's
Yeah.
good.
He's really
like
good
he's
at soccer.
really
Yeah.
good now. He was linked with Tottenham. If anyone wants to, they didn't get him because they never get anyone. But did you like tackle him? Did he tackle you?
No. I mean, he's a winger,
Yeah.
so he spends a lot of time being really fast out there on the wing. He's got a wicked cross, which obviously you see that week in, week out in the Prem now. But I mean, there's a lot of other good players too that I've played against who, have made some noise.
Because he was the number 1 overall pick, I think, right?
I believe
In the
so.
ML
Yeah. He went to NYCFC.
And then because he was with City or something. Now he plays at Leeds, but
Yeah.
when you saw I'm assuming when you would game plan, everyone would be like, watch out for Jack Harrison, he's really good. But without having that bias, would you look at him on the pitch and just go, this guy is different? Could you tell immediately?
Yeah, some guys are just electric
Yeah.
on the ball, and those are usually the players that go the farthest. They're just really electric. Anytime they get it, they're dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
And if they have the athletic burst, that helps a ton as well.
Yeah.
But obviously to make it in the big leagues, regardless of what country you're in, you got to have, game smarts, the intelligence to back it up. And that just usually comes with time and
Yeah.
experience. So if you have the bursts, then chances are you're going to get a shake at it. I know some guys who were really athletic. One guy that jumps to mind, he even got signed. He was a young player that came up through the ODP ranks from Georgia. He played for, he got signed by Atletico Madrid, actually.
What?
Yeah. At a very young age. He was down at residency in Florida for the U.S., got signed to Atletico Madrid, and could just never break into the squad, and just slowly declined and dropped from Atletico Madrid to an MLS roster to a USL roster to not a USL roster.
Wow.
Yeah.
But was it like...
And that's over the span of like a year and a half.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were talking about like 5 years.
No, this stuff happens quick.
Man.
No, this stuff happens
That's crazy.
quick.
Would you say that it's because he had the talent on the ball, I'm assuming, but was he just not... Was it work ethic? Was it just lack of positioning? Was it anything like that?
He had the athleticism.
Yeah.
And he had some skill,
Mm-hmm.
but not a highly technical player by any
okay.
means. And I think sometimes, for obviously big clubs with the resources, it's a business and it's a numbers game. They know a lot of players are going to develop and change over time.
Yeah.
So it's better for them to pull the trigger on supreme athleticism early on. And I'm not a huge fan of this, because if you look at a lot of the guys that are the biggest impact players, going back to Kevin De Bruyne,
Right,
for
I was
example,
about to say him,
right?
too.
Like you wouldn't pick him out of a lineup when
Yeah.
he was 14 and say, this guy is special.
Yeah.
Right. But, over time, he is the guy who changes the game.
That's funny, because are you talking mainly about U.S. people, or is it like worldwide?
Well, football's, it's all around the world.
You're right. But
right?
in terms of like when coaches look for athleticism over technical ability, would you say that's common more in the U.S.?
I do think it's more common.
Because
in the
I would
US.
agree with that.
Yeah.
Because what I've always seen and what I've always heard is like the level of athleticism in the U.S., even in the MLS, compared to Europe, MLS might even be on top compared to athleticism.
Yeah.
But I always think about, you can't run faster than someone can ping a ball 30 yards. So in the Netherlands, they focus completely on just, can you control the football?
Mm-hmm.
Same in Brazil, but with like, because of street football.
Yeah.
But it's all about being able to control the ball. Like Heung-min Son, the great Korean for Tottenham, his dad wouldn't let him shoot until he was like 13 to save his knees, and he would just juggle a ball for 4 hours. Like that's all his dad cared about. Can you control the ball? And now he's pinging shots with his left foot with his right foot from 30 yards out, but it was all about, can you control the ball? And so I think that's where the U.S. kind of lacks behind, because although it's such a huge, we have 300 million people or whatever it is, but we can talk into, this could be a segue into the World Cup, although I want to finish your career. The U.S. isn't going to win. And if you had to guess between like, is the U.S. going to win or is the U.K. going to win? Who will win a World Cup first, the U.S. or the U.K.?
Mm-hmm.
If you had asked me before the last World Cup and the last Euros where England did pretty well, I would have said U.S. just because I'm hoping there's a lot of potential. But I don't see that potential getting grown because, as we'll touch on, there's nothing in the U.S. that really develops your ability to play soccer. It's so much barrier to entry with price, with cost, with just like, there are no soccer fields to go around and play. I mean, you can find some, but like most of the places you're going to go, it's mainly like Mexican leagues or Hispanic leagues, or, just there's a group of Congolese guys who get together on campus. And so it's,
Street culture.
Yeah, it's street culture.
Right.
Like
That's what we're missing.
It's with basketball. People play basketball. In the U.S., people used to go play baseball. They don't do that anymore because it's boring and because it's too many people.
Yep.
Now they do basketball, but they don't do football.
Baseball, basketball, and football are the three sports with the best street culture. And you could even throw hockey in there because even though we don't see it a lot, growing up in North Carolina,
Right.
if you go to where it's colder, they're out there on the lakes.
Yeah.
Slapping shots, right? That's what people do.
Mm-hmm.
And there is an element of, they're shipping in hockey more so than football or basketball. They're shipping kids off to, boarding schools
Yeah.
where they're going to be trained relentlessly all day, every day, and they're going to learn how to read and write, and that's
Yeah.
about it. So those type of venues exist for all sports, but that's one of the things that you're right, soccer lags behind, in that it's still very much a pay-to-play model. And I don't want to beat that dead horse, because I know that has been circulated a lot lately, but I do think it's an important gap
Yeah.
for us to get to, because the best players, if you're just looking at in America, football, basketball, baseball, the best players, they just grew up playing the game in their front yard,
Right.
their backyard, the street. They didn't grow up playing it, getting the best coaching. Getting
Yeah.
access to the best coaching at too young of an age actually stifles creativity
Yeah.
way more than it does accelerate your actual ability
Yeah.
and skill.
It's important to get that coaching, but you have to first develop your own creativity and understanding of the game, and then you're almost like you're a wild horse that gets tamed,
Yeah.
right? And that just doesn't happen here, because you're never wild. You're just always like very structured.
Right. Almost just learn to be coachable.
Right.
That's more important than being coached. If you're young, you don't need to have a specific framework of tactics beat into you.
Yeah.
What you need to do is just be responsive and be able to listen
Yeah.
and adapt to what someone is telling you.
Yeah.
That's what matters, because when you get old enough to where you are exposed to quality coaching, right? Because we don't have the luxury. Most people are getting coached by their parents
Yeah.
who maybe played soccer, maybe they didn't. So it's important to just focus on enjoying the game, getting as many touches as possible.
Yeah.
Like the example you brought up of juggling with both feet, being really good with both feet. That's not coaching.
Right.
That's just time with the ball. And then you can figure all that other stuff out, when you get older.
All right. So you're at State. How's that go?
State. So it was good. I came in as obviously a walk-on, which means you're down in the depth chart. We had a pretty good recruiting class. I think we were easily top 10 in the country in terms of our recruiting class. We had 11 freshmen come in my freshman year. Some guys from national team camp down in Florida, the residency, had done their time down there. Some really talented players from Jersey who were South American guys coming in. So we had a really diverse team, and we had a lot of talent. We didn't have, I would say, the best culture.
Yeah.
For me personally, I was able to make a name for myself because I came in fit and I'm a grinder. So I was able to earn some of the trust and respect of the coaches pretty quick. I ended up playing in 13 out of 17 games freshman year.
Really? As a
Not
walk-on?
starting, but subbing in.
That's still good as a walk-on.
Yeah, I got minutes. The 4 games that I didn't play in stick with me, because those were some of our biggest games: Louisville, Syracuse,
really?
UNC, some of the best teams in our
Yeah.
conference. Those were the games I didn't see the field in. But coach did give me, plenty of chances to get out there, show what I can do. So I'm grateful for that. And, the summer, I made a lot of strides with my confidence and with my ability between my freshman and sophomore year.
Yeah.
Playing for the under-23 Railhawks team,
Really?
that's a summer league
Nice.
where up to 4 guys from every school can hop on the team. You play against other top college players from around the country or local. And that's a great way to get more confidence, rub elbows with good players from different schools. And I came in and had cemented my spot as a starter by sophomore year. So in terms of the trajectory of my career coming in as a walk-on, it went about as well as it could go in terms of getting an opportunity to be a starter. Sophomore year, I played, I think there was 1 game I sat out with a tweaked groin, but I played and started every minute of every game since, other than that 1 game.
So you had a pretty good freshman, sophomore year. And then is that when you transferred?
Yeah,
Between sophomore and junior?
Yep. Yeah, so after the fall of sophomore year is when I transferred up to Penn State.
Okay. And what went into that? What was the main decision?
That's tough. Growing up in Raleigh, I think it was just time for me to get out of Raleigh, go somewhere new. The soccer world feels so small, but there was a big difference of wanting to get outside of the bubble of Raleigh and just spread my wings. I wouldn't say that NC State was a school that I had my heart set on when I came out of school. I just wanted a shot at the ACC because it was the best soccer conference, and at that time, our coach was staying on for another year, and I felt like I didn't see the culture improving on our team. I didn't feel the culture improving, and you only get to be a college player for 4 years, so you want to make that count.
So even though you personally, do you think you were doing well, but the team path and the team goal wasn't going where you wanted it to? Would you say?
Well, I was becoming a more important part of the team.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't even say that on a personal level, I was a consistent contributor.
Yeah.
But if your team's not winning a lot of games and your team's not getting to the NCAA tournament,
Mm-hmm.
I remember that was the biggest thing I wanted. I just wanted to be in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah.
And if we're not hitting those milestones, then I don't feel successful as an individual.
So freshman and sophomore year, you didn't make the tournament?
Mm-mm.
Oh, gotcha. Did you? So then junior and senior year, you played 2 more years at Penn State, right?
I played 4 seasons. I did have definitely, I would say, more injuries after I transferred.
Yeah.
And, that's a whole nother tangent,
Mm-hmm.
but that's something that, you can't control. You just have to try to keep pushing forward and, keep putting in the work to get your opportunities.
So you're at Penn State.
Mm-hmm.
Weather's cold, right?
Yeah. Colder than North Carolina,
Let's
that's
see.
for sure. You're in the
I was
middle of nowhere in
What do I
Pennsylvania.
know about Penn State other than Happy Valley and it being cold?
The Big
Joe
Ten.
Paterno.
Yeah, sure.
Joe Paterno. So, what was that conference like compared to NC State?
It's a really good
in the ACC?
conference. Almost feels like a more historic
really?
conference.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, Indiana, for example, has the most NCAA tournament appearances of any school in America. I mean, they are really tradition-rich program, and Penn State is obviously in itself full of so much tradition.
Yeah.
A lot of that's on the football side, but even from the soccer side, they've had championships. They've been in the mix. They've been definitely a strong competitor in the Big Ten as a conference and have made several trips to the NCAA as well.
Now, I don't know why this always interests me. I would always watch those like preseason. I was never a college athlete. I was a high school baseball player, guys. Okay. I played varsity my junior and senior year and played like 5 games. But I was always interested in like the conditioning stuff that real sports had to do, not just baseball. And do you have a story from like, I don't know, maybe it was doing summer workouts going into freshman year or just any hell week or anything like that where you just were like, oh my gosh, I thought I trained, and I know you, like in high school, you probably trained really hard, but there's something different about being in a culture and a team where the training is just someone else telling you what to do and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to die.
Yeah.
Do you have anything that you remember?
So in high school, we never do fitness tests.
Yeah.
That's the thing about high school is you train, and because you're young and you're active and you're playing a lot, fitness is never an issue, but it's also never something that you get very targeted on. And the transition from me being a senior in high school into a freshman of college, I was pretty jacked up.
Yeah.
And knowing that I had this chip on my shoulder and I had everything to prove because I was coming in as a walk-on to basically be a GPA booster for the coach, right? That's how he's looking at it.
Oh, keep going.
So I had to prepare, and I wanted to come in and at least show, hey, I haven't seen much out of this guy, but at least we see that he's more fit than the guys, that we're throwing money at to come play for us. So they had a fitness test, and I'm trying to remember the specifics of it because this was a while ago. But they had sent out a packet of information saying, hey, you're going to have a fitness test. This is what it's going to be. And they let us know at least, over a month in advance saying, come in ready to go.
Oh my God. I
Because-
would die if I got that.
Here's the kicker. You aren't allowed to get your gear, and you're not able to practice with the team until you pass the fitness test, which there have been people who didn't pass. And while we were training the next day with our gear, they hadn't got any of their gear yet, and they were just redoing the fitness test.
Did you just keep doing the fitness test over until you pass it?
Yeah, you just keep doing it. Well, like not back to back to back,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
the next day you do it again.
Yeah.
And the next day you do it again until you get it.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's awful.
Yeah.
What was it? Just running?
So I remember
hate
the
running.
track. There was a track portion of it, and this is what I'm just remembering off the top of my
Yeah.
head. It was a mile and then a lap, but there was a mandatory 90-second break that you had to take between running the mile, and then you'd have to take a 90-second break, whether you felt like you needed a break or not, and then you'd have to do another lap. And the reason that 90 seconds is impactful is because you had a certain time frame you had to get this under. Like you had to finish in under, it might have been 8 minutes, I think was the time frame. So if 8 minutes, you subtract 90 seconds, was that 6.5 minutes or whatever?
It actually ruins everything.
So it becomes less of like you're running the mile pretty fast to give yourself a chance. And then that last quarter of a mile just becomes a dead sprint to make it under the time.
Oh my.
But everyone had different. I remember my buddy who went to Wake, his fitness test was 2 miles in 12 minutes or something like that. Yeah. So there's different variations
based on what they want to do.
Yeah. And I think the purpose of those, the track ones, is just to make sure you're not sitting around eating potato chips all summer. They want you to come into preseason ready to go.
That's reasonable. I mean, we had to do at my this is high school baseball, and I don't even understand why. You would have to run the mile in 6 minutes, but no one did it because we were baseball players. So every time you failed, you would add another 15 seconds.
Yeah.
So we had random people who would like played or who ran track or played lacrosse or something like that. And then they did it in like 5 minutes and 15 seconds. I'm like, this is easy. And then everyone else is just running and not making it. I finally did it in 7 minutes and 3 seconds, which is the fastest I've ever run the mile. And I look back on that. I'm like, I couldn't do that right now. I think I'd run like a 9-minute mile. It would be awful. So this guy runs barefoot miles, if anyone's wondering. So I have no idea. Okay, we've been going.
I've got a question for you.
Oh, we've only been going for 31 minutes. All right, go ahead.
I've got a question for you. Well, I just want to hear more about your journey as well.
Yeah.
Was college something that you aspired to? Is that something that you maybe wish that you had made it more of a goal?
You're talking about sports-wise?
Yeah, sports-wise.
Yeah, I mean...
Yeah, I'm not trying to imply that you weren't smart enough to go to college.
I went to college, actually. I don't know.
LT went to college. Did pretty well.
So, yeah, I mean, my entire life growing up, I was like, I'm just going to play baseball. I'm going to be a professional baseball player. Like, it wasn't even a question.
Because you were really good.
I was really good when I was like 8, 9, 10.
Yeah.
And then so growing up, I played Raleigh Parks, which is just anyone shows up. Like you just show up. And when I was like in kid pitch, I could actually throw strikes and I could throw pretty fast for my age. I was throwing like almost 60 miles per hour and I was never tall. I was just kind of like a little chubby kid. And I was throwing really fast and throwing strikes. So I would strike out like 12 people a game. It was just, I just remember being like, this is so easy.
Yeah.
And I think that was really cool for me, but it was almost like, I need to play people who aren't just, they've never played or swung a bat in their life. That's why I'm getting 12 strikeouts a game. So I went to West Raleigh Exchange Club, which was different, and people would actually pay like $200 and you would do better coaches and you'd have sponsors. And I remember the first couple of seasons, I was like, this is different. These people are actually good. And I eventually caught up and was good enough, and I played like summer ball. But, going into high school, and I was good in like my middle school team. Then going into high school, I was pretty good my freshman year, and I just remember in one of my tryouts making a diving play as a freshman, and everyone being like, who's this kid? Like, who's this short little kid with nice feet? And like, I was really good at fielding. I was a shortstop. And then I don't know if it was because I didn't care or because I just stopped. I was more focused on school, but I didn't put as much effort into, I was never a great hitter. I was always pretty good at pitching, but I was never tall enough that people would look at you and go, oh, he can be a pitcher. Cause I'm only 5'9". I'm only 5'9". But I could throw, I reached like 80, 82, 83. And I always think, man, if I were just a little, and I had more leverage, I could have thrown 90 plus. I also hurt my arm sophomore year, so I actually can't extend this arm fully straight, which kind of sucks. But yeah, after going into sophomore year of high school, the coach was basically like, hey, are your grades good? And I was like, what? He's like, are your grades good? In case you need to, can I call on you to be on the varsity team as a sophomore? And so I was like, oh my gosh, I might actually go to the varsity team. And then he got fired because he called everyone a bunch of expletives, apparently. And then they brought in this other guy who, he liked me, but he just never thought of me as, like, he wanted people who were tall and strong. That's all he cared about. And it was really weird. He was like really big into lifting weights. And I'm like, we're playing baseball. We're not lifting weights. And so it just never really materialized. And by junior to senior year, I realized, I'm going to get into a good school. Like I'm pretty smart. So I'm just going to focus more on that as opposed to playing sports.
So do you think in a different environment, you could have seen yourself getting on a path where you stayed in love with the game, you stayed working on it consistently, and you made it to the college ranks?
Possibly. So I think with my mindset, I think I could have played college. I could have walked on. I could have done it at pretty much any school, in my opinion. I just didn't. I don't think I liked baseball when I think about it, because I remember distinct moments when I was younger where I was like, I really hope it rains. It's just, I don't want to wake up at 10 a.m. And if you don't want to play, like, you're not going to be motivated. I'm assuming that never happened to you, right? Growing up, you might have had some moments where you're like, I don't really feel like playing today. But for the most part, it's like, this is my goal. This is my dream. I'm going to achieve it. Right.
My life, here's the thing. My life and soccer were so intertwined on my path up till college that I never honestly knew what my life would be like without it. And there actually was one year, I want to say this was 6th or 7th grade-ish time frame, where I actually took a year off from soccer.
Oh, really?
I took a year off from soccer and I played football.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, because I actually played football 3 years, 6th, 7th, 8th, basically all through middle school age. I played football and I loved it.
Yeah.
And I was pretty good at it.
Yeah.
So that's something where going into high school, I went all in on the soccer basket.
Yeah.
Because obviously you have to be always playing. That's just the way soccer is. It's spring, fall, all the time.
Right.
There's indoor in the winter. You're always playing.
Yeah.
So for me, it became, hey, all my friends are playing soccer. And I love soccer. I've played it the longest. It's the sport that I feel like comes the most naturally to me. So that's the one that I stuck with. But yeah, I mean, part of me sometimes wonders if I could rewind the tape and say, hey, I want to go all in on football.
Yeah.
But football is another one of those sports where your ceiling can be so predetermined by your athletic composition that if you don't, and I feel like I'm someone who's a late bloomer. If I was where I am now athletically at the age of 18, I would have destroyed college soccer. Right. Like I would have been a force.
Yeah.
But I wasn't at this level then that I am at now. And so your body matures and ages and grows and develops differently.
So I played football in 7th grade. I want you to guess what position I played. Knowing, like, at that time, I think I was 5'4", 130 pounds. Maybe. That might be
defense or offense or both. What position? I guess
both, because it was just. I mean, we were the worst team, and I don't think we didn't win we didn't win a game my 6th or 7th grade year. We won one game my 8th grade year, and they made everyone on the football team stand up, and we gave them a round of applause. It was bad. So, what positions did I play?
Did you play D-line?
I played defensive end, and I played. So I was primarily defensive end, and then also like a running back a little bit.
Okay.
But the only reason I was a starting defensive end was because I watched a Michael Strahan video once on YouTube of him doing this one. It wasn't even a swim move. It was just like a stutter step, and he got by. And I kept doing it in practice because we were awful. Like the offensive linemen were my size too. So I would just do that. And I knew they were passing every time. And then I'd just raise my hands, and the coach would be like, hey, good job getting your hands up. And I was like, okay. And he goes, you're starting next week. I'm like, okay. And I just remember getting on the field, and the guy across from me was growling. And we're in middle school. He's probably 6 foot, 250 pounds. Like he was just giant. At least in my mind, he was that big. And he's growling. And I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do? So I tried the stutter step, and I got around him, but then it was a run play going the other way. I'm like, well, this wasn't in my game plan. What do I do now? Because there was no coaching. They would just, it was just completely garbage. So that it was funny because I was wearing a baseball shirt in one of my German classes, and the football coach saw me, And he goes, "Oh, you play baseball?" I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "What position?" I'm like, "I'm a pitcher." He goes, "Oh, that means you have a strong arm. You might try out. I might make you quarterback next year." This is between 7th and 8th grade. And I go, "Let's see. The last quarterback got a concussion and broke his collarbone. The one before that broke his arm. I don't think I can play football with this man. I'm going to get injured." So I just didn't try out 8th grade year. And that was the end of my football career. What did you? I'm gonna see you. You look like a running back.
I did play running back. I was also the kicker.
Really?
Woo-hoo.
Yeah.
All those footy skills.
Bravo.
And I played linebacker actually a lot.
Yeah.
Which it's interesting. I've never thought about this, but looking back, when you play center mid, you're so used to situational awareness is in your DNA, and as a running back, it's all about seeing the game and finding the space.
Yeah.
And reading people's body movements and making cuts. And when you're a linebacker, it's the exact same thing. You're trying to read the play, right? Like you're the center mid of the defense.
You know what I really like though? Because this is why I go back to, with baseball, I think the only thing I really enjoyed was pitching because it was constant. Like I realized with a lot of baseball, you're just standing there. You're just watching. And it's just, I would get really nervous playing in the field, even though I was pretty good at fielding, just because I would be sitting there and I would get in my own head and nothing would happen. And then suddenly, oh, I got to make this play. And if you make an error, then you're just, shoot, I made an error. And then you're dwelling on that forever and ever. Whereas with other sports, like when I played football, if you made a mistake, no one cares because you've got another play to make up for it.
Yeah, you just bounce back.
Yeah, you know, like you lose the ball in soccer, you go chase it, right?
Yeah, it's
and
actually the first rule they teach you is if you lose the ball, win it right back.
Yeah, keep going.
So,
but talk about your career in Australia.
Yeah, so getting back to the trajectory of the soccer career, we talked about high school, NC State, Penn State, and then I did do a season in the USL Championship, which is, you know, the second division of the American soccer system. And after that, I went over to Australia to play in what's referred to as the NPL, which is their second division. That's their, I guess, USL equivalent. Everyone has their own funky system for how they pretend to be pro, except for England because they're all really good. But yeah, Australia was incredible. And that was everything I hoped for in terms of a life experience, going somewhere new. I've never been to another country outside of, you know, a handful of trips to Canada or Mexico for soccer and growing up. But I had the opportunity to go live for 6 months in another country, play a season over there, meet people from a whole different part of the world. Ended up working on a TV show that was funded by Disney when I was over there. So just as an overall life experience, it was incredible. From on the pitch standpoint, the level of and quality of the soccer was not anything special.
Was it less than in the ACC and Big Ten?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Were these guys...
ACC and Big Ten are, I mean, those are all good players.
Yeah.
I mean, you could find people on our roster who would be comparable.
Right.
But like the best players from
Yeah.
our teams on the ACC and Big Ten were better than, and they might be equivalent to some of the best players that we ran up against in...
Were these
Aussie.
like older guys or
It was a mix.
mix?
It was a mix. Yeah. I wouldn't say there was anyone old,
Yeah.
right? Like we're talking late 20s. The older guys on the spectrum would be like 30, low 30s.
Are these people who they're playing just because they enjoy it still, or are they people who are like, this is my shot and then I'm going to move to something bigger?
These are, unless they're the young talent coming up through the ranks that just hasn't gotten a crack at the bigger leagues, like over there, their first division is called the A League.
Yeah.
So unless it's just a really young player who has that potential and they're just playing because that's where they're from, most of these players are people who have jobs.
Yeah.
They're, you know, going to have a family and they still love to play. So this is the highest level they can still play at.
Would fans and people show up to the games?
Yeah, we had fans.
Nice.
Yeah.
Did you have ultras, people yelling in Australian and just, I just said Australian, people yelling in Australian English and be like, oi, shoot it, mate.
Everyone's
Australian.
chirping. The banter was pretty funny.
Really?
Yeah, the banter was pretty funny. There's always people chirping the ref. I mean,
Yeah.
this shouldn't come as a shock, but the refs are terrible everywhere.
Yeah.
It's not just here.
Yeah.
But yeah, the banter's good. And there's very much a culture. What I liked about it, it was just a very casual, laid back culture of we're going to train, and then guys were going up every Thursday night after training and, having beers, having a brew in the clubhouse.
That's cool.
And they would just talk. We would talk strategy about the upcoming game, and people would just hang out.
Yeah.
People from the club would be there to hang out with us, and we'd cook up some egg burgers or something like that, and we'd just hang out and eat.
Did you ever eat kangaroo?
I did.
Is it good?
We ate wallaby. Wallaby, that's a small miniature kangaroo.
Oh, what?
It's
Really?
a subspecies of
interesting.
kangaroo, and they're everywhere. Like pictures the way squirrels are here.
Oh.
That's how common they are over there. They're everywhere. It's called the roadkill capital of the world.
Yeah.
Because they have no natural predators and they just have tons of.
Wait, were you
rodents
in
and creatures.
Australia? I thought you were in Tassie.
We were in Tassie, which
Yeah.
that's the most southern state of Australia.
Okay.
So picture it like living in Florida.
Wait, Tasmania is an island, right?
Yeah, it's an island.
Okay, good.
So if Florida was an island,
yeah,
it's like that.
Florida. That's a whole other story.
Yeah, we're not going to get into Florida. We don't have time.
Florida, man.
We don't have time to get into Florida.
Oh, we've only been going for 46 minutes, but
I'm having fun.
Yeah, I mean,
This is good.
This is the first episode. The camera's shut off a couple times, but it's okay. The audio
That's fine.
keeps rolling.
Audio is what matters.
Yeah.
So here's quick question
Yeah.
before we transition. If you could play football, baseball, or soccer as a college athlete, which would it be?
Soccer, without
Soccer.
a doubt. Yeah. What about you? I feel like that's a biased question for you though, because you've already done one.
I've already done
So
one.
you're gonna say something else.
True, going back. But
Yeah.
I mean, here's the thing. I would rather go back and play soccer again than do baseball.
Right. I mean, yeah.
I would rather redo soccer, but I would probably choose football of those three.
Well, are you
Just
saying
because college football is insane.
Are you? Yeah, but also, do you think part of it is because you think, like, what if I was really good at football? Could I have been a pro? Do you think that's factoring in?
At times I've wondered
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard to know because you haven't competed at that level.
Right.
But I would love to, test my mettle, so to speak.
I always I've never explained this to you. The only person I've ever explained this to is my sister, but I always wish that, because I played a lot of video games growing up, I wish that I could save my life at certain checkpoints. And then, because I would do this in video games.
Yeah.
I would be like, okay, there are multiple different channels and options I can choose. I want to try all three. So I'd go to the point before it branches off, save there, and then go do X, Y, or Z. So that's what you're saying. Like you've done X because you did soccer, but
right.
what if you did
like
Y?
go back? If I could go back to like 17 again,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Great movie. If
Yeah.
you could go back to being, if I could go back to being a freshman in high school,
Yeah.
and say, hey, knowing what I know now about these different paths in life,
Yeah.
can I go in? I would love to go in and try a different path, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's why reincarnation is such a
Right.
interesting thing to think
I
about. Is
know.
like, imagine if you got a second chance.
Yeah.
But I think outside of the athletic, right now we're talking about sports,
Right.
And in sports, you only have a limited amount of time that you can really compete.
So if you could reincarnate yourself, not talking only about sports, talking about anything in life, where would you go, and then what path would you choose? I know exactly what I'm saying, but I want to hear from you if you have it.
Well, if you already know,
Okay, I
you
already
do
know.
yours and I'll
All
do
right.
mine.
So for me, it would be the period after. So 2017,
Okay.
I graduated from college, and then I was working as a waiter, and I was working at Chick-fil-A, and I was doing these YouTube videos, and I was driving Uber, like from June 2017 through December 2017. And it was fun, but also a lot of odd jobs. And I just graduated from college from a good school, and I was kind of like, that was stupid.
Yeah.
And then I quit everything. I quit, except for YouTube, I quit everything in December. And from December until March of 2018, I was only grinding YouTube. And I started to that's actually the most viewed videos I have are from that period. Like I have a video that has 76,000 views, another one with
Wow.
like 46,000. And I have no idea why it happened at that point. And I always think like it couldn't have happened 2 months earlier. Like that could have changed everything. Because at the very same time I'm having these videos pop off, I'm like in this interview process for a real job. And it's the job that I ended up taking. I'm not going to say it because I don't want to.
Yeah.
I don't want people to know. But
With the CIA.
yeah,
obviously.
with the CIA following me, I just can't. I'm in witness protection. But because I would see those views pile up,
Mm.
and it was kind of bittersweet because I'm thinking like I know myself and I know I need to build up a career, so I know I'm going to end up choosing this other career that's going to make it so I don't have time to do these videos. But that is the moment. Like I would have gone, I don't care about this other career. I'm going all in on YouTube, just because I'm like, where would it lead? Would it have led to probably me grinding that out for a couple more years, but then just dedicating myself to that,
Mm-hmm.
to be my own boss essentially, and seeing where that went? That's the moment I would go.
So that was 2017.
It was 2018 in like March 2018.
So if you could go back in time, you would go back in time to that moment. And if I'm understanding you correctly, you would go all in.
Go all in on YouTube.
And that success you had, you think it was because you were all in?
I think
your back was against the wall?
Right.
Your
So
creative energy was channeled.
I was only focused on that. And then ever since then, I've always been kind of like, I got to drive home from work and I'm tired, and then I do it. And so I wasn't just all in.
Yeah.
I think
It's so hard to be all in,
Yeah.
by the way.
exactly. You just can't, there's not enough time to split things. Like even now, after I'm doing this video, but I've just been on calls all day. Like my brain's fried.
Yeah.
So I'm on here just like, I'm going to listen to this back and go, that didn't make any sense. Like that sentence actually made no sense, what you just said. Whereas if I'm fresh and I'm on it, like I've got all these ideas, because I think the mind works like this, where if your back is against the wall and you're like looking for a way, you're going to find a way to succeed.
Mm-hmm.
Just that's how I work. That's how you work. That's how people who are high productive people work. And so I don't have to worry about YouTube failing because I've got this other thing going on. You know, I'm diversified in that, which is good, but also you should focus on what you really want. Like if I could choose one thing, it'd be for YouTube to blow up and for that to be my career.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If I could choose for one thing, this is a really good question. I honestly believe that if I could go back, knowing what I know now about how to take care of my body,
Yeah.
how to put the right food in my body to consistently perform and avoid any injuries,
Mm-hmm.
I would go back and I would do the soccer route again, and I would feel very confident that I'm going to make it to a higher level than I made it. That's what I wish I could go back on, because it is very hard once you reach a certain age to get opportunities in a sport, because the older you are, the less inclined people are to take risks because there's so much young talent.
Yeah.
They'd rather go for a younger player. But I would love, and I'd still love, I'm always looking for opportunities to get out there and mix it up against people who are considered the best nowadays. Because I think you do develop a lot over time. And right now I'm 26.
Right.
Still not, I have not peaked athletically,
Yeah.
but I've definitely grown a lot as an athlete. So I would go back in time to answer your question officially. I would go back to, I guess we'll just say freshman year of high school, knowing what I know now about how to take care of my body, how to prepare myself for not just college, but
Right.
beyond that, pro, all the different levels of pro.
That's why I think
And I would prepare way better.
People who have older siblings who kind of flatten the grass before them and then find out what works and what doesn't. And then those siblings who are helpful enough to pass that information on, because that's almost like reincarnation. If you think about it, it's basically they live their life and they go through, you know, if you think about the Manning brothers, the oldest one, Arch Manning, he was a college quarterback, but I don't think he went professional. And then after him, Peyton and Eli just killed it. And I don't know the full story. Like this is the only one that just popped to my head, but it would not surprise me. And their father played in the NFL. Like that's where that lineage passes on, because they know all the tips and tricks. So you could just get by in raw ability if you're lucky and talent, and sometimes that works. Most likely you're going to pass that on to your children and say, this is what you need to do. Some of that is genetic, but a lot of it is just coaching and training and explaining how things work. So I feel like having older siblings who help play sports is a huge advantage, also because you get to train against them.
Yep.
Like if you're playing one-on-one basketball against the best or against your sibling and just who's really good, it helps push everyone along.
And look, I mean, my parents, neither of them were ever coached.
Yeah.
Right. They were just what I call totally natural.
Mhm.
Whatever they achieved was totally natural. My dad was the first person in his family to really go to college.
Yeah.
Right. So he wasn't even coached academically on how to build a life for
Yeah.
yourself, let alone athletically. I think they had, everyone played every sport in their high schools.
Mhm.
They had 60 kids in their graduating class. So that's just a whole different tangent. But you're right. The preparation, the mindset, those are all just as important as the athletic
Yeah.
potential. But if you have all three, then you have a really good opportunity to make some noise.
Yeah. So let's see. What else do we want to talk about? Because I wanted to talk about, and guys, if you enjoy these videos, let us know. Drop the likes, subscribe. Cam's got his own YouTube channel that I'm going to put in the description. So go give him a follow. But I wanted to talk about Omega Ball a bit because that's kind of, we've been talking about the past a lot, but you still play and you're on TV. Like that's what people don't realize. Cam is still on TV playing professional Omega Ball, right?
Omega Ball, yeah. If you can't make it to the highest level of one sport, pivot.
Yeah.
Make your own
Pivot
sport.
and adjust.
Make your own sport, right?
Make a new sport that is just a combination, and then you'll be the best at that.
Exactly. But hey, at the end of the day, if you're a competitor and you love finding ways to still express yourself athletically, then that pretty much sums me up. I'm
Yeah.
someone who loves that. I don't want to lose that. I want to keep it as a part of my life as long as I can. I play volleyball twice a week.
Competitively.
Yeah.
I mean,
Professionally.
things get heated sometimes.
Yeah, nobody likes to lose.
Yeah.
So if that's in you, then you're going to always look for opportunities. And Omega Ball just popped out of absolute nowhere. They have a website if you guys want to learn a little bit more about what the sport is. But
Isn't it basically, you're going to get it.
Yeah.
It's like 3 games at once.
Exactly. So it's 3 teams, 3 goals. It's 1 game, but the 3 goals are evenly spaced around a circle field instead of a traditional rectangle like a normal soccer field.
Yeah.
And the field's way smaller, by the way. This circle field is way smaller than a normal field. So it's much more action-packed. There's a lot more goals. Their tag phrase is chaos on the pitch.
Mm-hmm.
They want to make it more exciting to watch than traditional soccer. So you obviously have to be good at soccer to be good at Omega Ball. That's why I don't really call it a sport yet. It's more of a spin-off of soccer because the people who are going to play Omega Ball are the same people who play soccer. But it does create a whole new avenue if it's able to grow. There's some people with some vision behind it. So
Is
I'm
there
excited to see.
There's one ball?
There's 1 ball.
Ah, okay.
Whichever team scores the most amount of goals wins the game.
So I'm guessing it's like you're being defended by 2 teams at once?
Yeah, both teams, all 3 teams are fighting for the same ball,
Ah.
and you can score on either goal because
Oh,
you're always
right.
attacking 2 goals instead of attacking 1 goal.
I mean, does your brain get kind of confused when you play it?
Your brain's definitely turned on.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing is the transitions, the
Right.
reaction time of the situational awareness of knowing, hey, if they score on that goal, it's just as bad as if they scored on our goal.
Right.
Getting that through my head was the hardest thing
Yeah.
because we've only played this once, and it's not something you can really train for
Right.
because we can't just go out in our front yard and play Omega Ball. It's a very specific situational game tactically. But that was the biggest thing we learned. We did end up winning. We were on ESPN back in August for the Ocho. And because we won that, we punched our ticket to a championship that's being held. There's actually a men's and women's championship being held next weekend in California, outside LA. We're going to play on a Saturday. It's going to be the semifinal. And then Sunday, which should be aired on Sunday on Fox Sports, is going to be.
So what happens if you win? Big check, 100 million?
I think there's a $5,000 cash prize for
that's
this
pretty
one.
good.
Yeah, so some cash, right?
Yeah.
They're paying for our travel and all that good stuff.
That's really cool. I
So
didn't know that.
we have a chance to pocket some money and profit from it, but more than that, we're just excited to go, like you said, compete on TV, win a championship.
Yeah.
The guys I'm going to be playing with are all guys that I've played with growing up and have gotten really close to. So
do you think there's going to be an Omega Ball league that you might be part of, or has that
it
been-
might turn into a league. I think for the next couple of years, this is the first year that's ever existed. So right now it's just a series of tournaments to try and get more exposure and excitement for it. But as it gets more popularity, I could definitely see a loosely defined league forming. But it might just be tournaments closer together and then a more national showcase type of tournament.
What about the tournament, the soccer tournament? Have there been any developments there? Because I've previewed this a bit because I wanted. That's kind of the grand finale. The grand finale was the video that I put up on the channel about your Hispanic league that you're playing in. But some of those guys you were going to hopefully be in the tournament,
these same guys, not all of them, but a couple of these guys from Omega Ball are going to be a part of that group if we're able to get into it. Right now we're on the waiting list.
Okay.
There's a lot of teams on the waiting list. Yeah. And the people putting on the tournament are meeting with the teams from the waiting list to basically fill those last spots.
Interview process, basically?
Sort of like an interview process.
Yeah.
So we're trying to put our best foot forward, and honestly, there's a good chance they'll be tuning in to Omega Ball this weekend. So if we show out and win, that improves our stock.
The other thing, guys, like if this gains traction, these kinds of podcasts and the other videos that we'll do with Cam and other members of the team, that will increase their chances too, and then give me the ability to film behind the scenes stuff, which would be cool for you all to see. Because #United, which is another internet YouTube team, they're in it.
Yeah, they're already in. Punched their ticket.
Yeah, they've already punched their ticket just by virtue of being the biggest team on the internet. And actually, I don't know if you know this, the guy who owns #United, Spencer Owen, he's the inspiration for why I started YouTube.
That's cool.
Which is kind of cool because
and now we're gonna take him down.
Yeah, and now we'll take him down.
Revenge tour.
Spencer, if you ever see this and want to invite me to your podcast, I have 1/300th of the amount of subscribers that you have, if I did the math right. But I'm a huge fan, and you once you liked one of my tweets where I said, if anyone doesn't like Spencer, you're a mug or something like that. So just want to throw that out there.
I didn't realize you guys were that close.
Yeah, we're pretty much best friends.
Wow.
I'm 2 degrees away from Gareth Bale because he interviewed Gareth Bale. And he likes my tweet. So yeah, I mean the soccer tournament I think would be a huge step. And even if
that's a big one.
I want to get other guys from the podcast or from that show from that team onto the show, onto the podcast to tell their story. Cause I think they all have listening to you talk about your story was really cool. Cause a lot of people who listen to this, they don't have insight into what an actual life for, it's great to hear about people like Cristiano Ronaldo and Messi and their whole way working up through everything, but you don't really get it from the American perspective too much. And you don't really see someone who doesn't necessarily hit the MLS, someone who's trying, the thing that's crazy to me is we'll see this in the videos that we do, a lot of people are armchair experts when it comes to sports, especially soccer. And they're just like, wow, why can't you believe you misplaced this pass? I can't believe you did X, Y, and Z. Whereas if they had to do it themselves, it would just be, you get in the seat and you realize how hard it is to do that job. And that's what I think a lot of people
100%.
don't realize is the amount of difference in level and talent and ability is just off the charts. There are some YouTube videos right now where people are like, how bad is the worst card on FIFA? And they actually they do soccer challenges with someone who's like a 46 rated overall card. Because young kids usually look at that 46 overall card and be like, this guy's trash. He's garbage. He can't do anything. And then he's like putting it upper 90s because he's a professional at the end of the day. And I think that people get lost on that. And that'll be cool to see in the different videos that we do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited. I mean, obviously it's fun to talk about everything, but we're going to get out there. We're going to do some challenges. Yeah. We're going to train. We're going to get after it.
How good so every time I used to do these little finishing things and I would get so tired, and then I would wear these running shorts that were really short because I don't have any soccer shorts, and I would need to put my cell phone into my back pocket so then I could hook the lav mic up, and all the comments were just about my butt. That's everything. All these guys are really weird. They're all just completely sus. So it's just like, hey LT, nice butt. Hey LT, nice butt, and just comments and comments about that. It's probably going to happen in this too, but I mean, it is nice. So
yeah, I mean, if you got it, flaunt it, right?
Yeah. So I mean, I think we've been going for about an hour, 5 minutes. I think this is pretty good. I mean, anything else you want to touch on? This isn't the last one, by the way, boys. I'm hoping to bring Cam back on for some return videos and give us other topics that you want in the description in the comments below, and we'll touch on those. But anything else you want to mention?
Maybe next time we can go through our picks for who's going to get out of each group in the World Cup, because I think it's, I mean, starting up, what, a week from this
Today's
weekend?
the 11th.
A week from this
Oh,
week.
that's so great.
It's coming up.
It's
That's
just
all I know. It's
yeah,
happening
it's like
this
the 20th
month.
or something, and it's throwing me off because I would get, so the World Cup when I was 8 years old, I said, you know, I would play soccer just to play in the World Cup. That's it. As if it's that easy. It's just like, hey guys, I'm here for the World Cup. So the World Cup was always my thing because nothing else was televised in the U.S. So we'll definitely get into that because I have my thoughts and
Yeah, we can make our selections and then track it, see how it goes.
We got to do that though before.
Well, we can make our
games.
selections, but then our selections will be out on paper and set in
Yeah.
stone, and then we can talk about it next time or something.
Yeah, and then we'll wager $1,000. One of my friends keeps asking me for like betting advice on soccer because he knows I watch it. I'm just like, what am I, a bookie? Like I don't know these things. So it was the last day of the group stages for the Champions League, and he like gives me these 3 games, and he's like, hey, do you think these picks are right? And I'm like, I don't know, because also I'm in the middle of like working and I don't have time to like look at everything. And I go, I think that looks good. The only one I'd be worried about is the Dortmund versus it was Copenhagen. I think they might draw. And I actually got all 3 right.
Let's go.
But he didn't. He thought they were all going to win. So, you know, no one. He lost money on that day. I gained pride and knowledge. But
yeah, well, maybe you can get into some betting.
Yeah,
Nice little
this
side
is going
hustle.
to be. Yeah, that's my next side hustle. This is going to be a crypto soccer betting life advice podcast. I think that's the different avenues we're going to touch on.
Yeah, man. Well, I appreciate you having me on. I'm looking forward to more conversations, and obviously looking forward to some of those outside challenges too.
Yeah, that'll be fun. All right, boys, drop a like, subscribe, comment, share with your friends, give Cam a follow, and as always, do you know my sign off? Have you ever heard my?
No.
All right, it's not going to make any sense, but just say, don't forget to spay your pets. All right, can you say that for me, sir?
You gonna give me a countdown, or do you want me to just say it?
Just go for it.
Hey, y'all, don't forget to spay your pets.
All right, there we go. That was sick.